Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to one of my replays, and yes, that's a T28 Prot. But I really want the T30, and to get the T30 you've got to go through this thing first, so yeah. I have a couple of major gripes with this. One is the stock grind, and the absolute stock gun you get with this is the top gun on the T25 too, with 170 pen, and you can see tier 10s with that gun. It's not fun. I actually did play a couple of battles before I had enough XP combined with my free XP to get the second gun, which is the 105mm. And once you get that, it gets slightly less painful, but it's still not a particularly great gun given the rest of the tank. Now, it's the same gun you get on the T29 and the T32, and also the T25, which is the tier 7 non-turreted American tank destroyer. So if you play up that line first and get that gun on that line, well, that makes your life a bit easier. So I would certainly recommend doing that. Having not done it myself, I would say go play up to tier 7 on the other line first. It's exactly the same with the ST1 and the IS-3. You don't get the IS-3's gun if you play up the KV4 line first. If you've never played the IS-3, once you get to the ST1, you're stuck with a pretty awful stock gun. You get 175 pen stock gun on a tier 9 tank. And you have to grind the BL9 122mm gun, which is what I did. Also with a healthy injection of free XP. But yeah, I just apparently have a penchant for doing things ass backwards in that regard. So don't do either of those things, kids. Your sanity is not worth it. My other gripe is the view range. And that is something that you can't do anything about because you get one turret with the T28 Prot and it has 380 millimeters, 380 meters view range. Exactly the same as the T25 too. This is an open-topped tank destroyer. The only other tier 8 open-top tank destroyer is the Rheinmetall, of which there is one on the enemy team. It gets 400 meters. You know what else gets 400 meters view range? The T69 and the T32, which are tier 8 medium and heavy tanks respectively with closed turrets, and yet they have 20 meter better view range than an open topped vehicle. The sense it does not make. This is a really quite fictional vehicle, so it is entirely a balance parameter that Wargaming have decided on, and I really can't figure out why. Both of those machines are far, far superior for their tier than the T28 Prot is. I mean, the grind, the stock horrid grind, is something that you can do something about with a bit of foreplanning by either having lots of free XP saved or by going up to tier 7 on the other line first. But you can't do anything about the base view range on this thing. And obviously you can put on optics or binos, and I haven't at the moment because I've put a repair kit on instead. The repair speed feels like it might be more important with this thing. I don't want my tracks to go down because the turret, although it's nice to have a turret, doesn't go all the way around. And because it's so sluggish, I mean, that's not what I like in a tank destroyer especially, unless you've got some marvellous thing that offsets that. And with some of the British tank destroyers, it's, you know, it's the rate of fire and it's the gun handling, and they don't have particularly great view range either, but they're altogether much tougher generally than this thing. But that said, the frontal armor is actually not bad. If you angle it a bit, the only massive weak spots are on the turret next to the gun. But that said, the 200mm not that tough at tier 8. So facing, like for instance, a tier 7, or same tier mediums or whatever frontally, that's fine. A bit of angle and you can bounce, but you don't want to angle too much because the sides are just horribly weak. You can see the gun handling on this 105 is not terrible either. I'm getting that Tiger Piece Commander's Hatch fairly reliably. I could actually be trying to shoot at the sides of his tank or even those front levels, but for some reason I just decided to go for that really prominent Commander's Hatch over and over again. So I'm going to move up now. The T34 behind me, I mean, I was, you might have noticed in the chat earlier, I was pinging him to fall back a bit because I thought we might get overrun, but as it turned out he picked a really good hold down position. Now I'm doing something myself a bit silly here. See that Tiger 2 on the minimap? Yeah, oh look, he could potentially have shot me in the side all day long. Fortunately he was paying even less attention than I was, so he's realised that he's being shot in the butt just slightly too late. T34 fires and misses, or fires and bounces, not quite sure which, and bam, there we go, so I get the kill. So that's a bit of extra damage, that's quite nice. So I've actually done a reasonable amount of damage already. And when you're top tier, this 105mm gun's alright. It's just, when you're seeing tier 10s, it's still pretty lackluster. I've actually got more premium rounds on this than I would have ever carried in the T32, for instance, just because the T32, it's faster, it's got better gun depression, it's got better view range. It can just do so many more things than this can do. The Prot doesn't have the flexibility, and until you get the top gun, it doesn't really have the punchiness to sit at range and go through people's frontal armour either. So, we've come down to a bit of a stalemate. We're at 10-8, we know where the remaining enemy tanks are. The Type 59 and the 3001P are... I'm not quite sure what they're doing, but they're at least giving the camping tank destroyers eyes. The ISU and the Rheinmetall on the enemy team are almost certainly up at the monastery. We know the Cromwell was last spotted up in that direction as well. So, although the T-34 is heading down towards the cap, I'm actually going to go the other direction because I think, worst case scenario, I am only able to just spot them from down here, but best case scenario, I can actually push up and do some damage and catch them unawares. I'm hoping that they're all focused on the cap. It's a calculated risk, and sometimes those pay off and sometimes those don't, but I've got absolutely no idea at this point. Now, the Rheinmetall I mentioned, he's got better view range than I do, by 20 meters. The ISU has got worse view range, but it doesn't matter because the Rheinmetall will be able to spot for him. And in fact, the ISU's only got 10 meters worse view range. And you'd think, okay, that's fair enough, closed, boxy, kind of quite low profile tank destroyer. Okay, it makes sense it wouldn't have much in the way of view range, but the fact that this then has only 10 meters better and it's the same view range as the tier 7, it just boggles the mind. Like, there's no logical reason for that. So I've just been feeding that ISU rather nicely. Our T-34, who played rather sensibly in going hull down, then just YOLO'd into the cap and was nuked by the ISU, giving him a top gun. And oh, by the way, I've also just found that the Rheinmetall was actually looking in this direction. With his first hit, with the, well, it must be the 15cm gun, he rolls high for 800, sets me on fire for another 130, and has basically taken the vast majority of my health with the first damaging shot that I've taken. That's it. I'm just... yeah. So, this game, I mean, it has some things in common with the previous game I put up, the T-34 game. They're both tier 8 American tanks. They both feature people sitting and farming damage and or kills, and they both feature an ending you wouldn't necessarily expect. I might have slightly given it away there, but yeah. Hooray! The Rheinmetall got killed for a change instead of the ISU. Yeah, well, it means he's not looking my way, but yeah. Now, have you noticed, by the way, we've had a Panther on the spawn the entire time. We've effectively been 14 versus 15 in this battle. The Panther never moves. He's either entirely AFK or just botting his way through to get to the Panther 2. I don't know. I don't think I even bothered looking up his stats. It's just he sat there and didn't move the entire time. So it might have been perfectly legitimate. He might have been called away just as the battle started or whatever. These things happen. It's just, in this particular case, it kind of screwed us a bit. So the IS3 was just telling me, and this level of communication is always nice, just telling me that he was down on shells. The T28 was wanting me to go up there and actually spot. And oh, hello, Cromwell. He finally decided to move. That's how much the side armor on this is worth, by the way. Even angled, with the 6-pounder gun, he doesn't even have his top gun. He was able to pen my side armor. Side armor on this is garbage. But he throws it all away. He's in a Cromwell. He's got all the mobility. I can't even get my turret all the way around. I can't traverse to counter him circling me. What does he do instead? Drives forward in front of my gun and then rams me for his last bit of health. Well played, sir. Well played. He actually might have been the biggest threat, because it initially seemed like, well, okay, we might lose this one, and then we got to this stage and I thought, you know what, they're just going to camp out up there. If they want it to be a draw, then so be it. That's fine. Let's give them a draw if that's what they want. Let's not just feed them a win for camping up in that corner. We don't have the view range to outspot them. We don't have the mobility to get underneath them. So there's literally not much that we can actively do to make this a win. It's their game to lose at this point. And even if they don't move, it's going to be a draw. To actually win, they've actually got to move and do stuff. And if they were going to do that, they've really missed their opportunity because we outnumber them. Now, they know I'm here and that I'm alone. The Cromwell has told them that much. So, that Rheinmetall tried a shot. That was a lucky bounce off my turret. Well, I say lucky, because he's got the 15cm gun. He doesn't have a lot of penetration. And, oh, there he is. Now, I had a feeling he might come for me. I wasn't sure if he was just taking a sneaky shot or if he'd actually come for me. But he does. And I have the HE preemptively loaded. And just look at this. He got off one shot at me. And I was thinking he'd possibly get another. But I'm thinking my HE must have wrecked some modules, knocked out some crew members, must have done something. Because that one shot was all he got. And in return, I got 1100 damage. Yeah, that was not the best played by him, I've got to say. And I was slightly worried that ISU would come streaming in right after, that they would have come down here together. And I will point out there was no platoons at all in this battle. So these guys were both, you know, if they were doing any communicating, it was just whatever they could say to each other in the chat and understand of each other. But yeah, the T28 wanting me to go to the hill again. And at this point, I just think, stuff it, why not? But then, yeah, no, the ISU does make an appearance. Now, I thought if it was going to, it would be, well before that point, but, yeah, hello. Now, I got lucky with the Rheinmetall and the Cromwell being pancakes, and I get even luckier with that first tracking shot. But, as you can see, his repair speed is slightly better than my reload speed. So he's getting his gun just a little bit further towards me every time. Now ordinarily if I could keep tracking him, if I could just use the fact I've got a turret to get around him, that would be fine. I would live. And instead, no, because I'm driving a Prot, I can't get round him in time. I could not drive around his side fast enough to beat his repair speed and then his traverse speed. At least I'm pretty confident I couldn't have. As it was, I tried to do one last damaging shot, which I don't quite know how that missed. I mean, it seemed like it was fully aimed on his tank, but it doesn't matter. I've bought enough time for our IS-3 to get there. I also took down his health enough that he was a one-shot for the IS-3, and that's it. I was convinced this was going to be a loss or a draw, and instead, we won, and we won in glorious style. Now, like I said, it was theirs to throw away, and they really did throw it away. If that Cromwell had been... If this had been a good player at Cromwell, that would have been it. I would have died, and maybe at that point they would have staged a breakout and possibly killed the IS-3 and the T28. I mean, the T28 would have been easier, certainly. If they'd killed the IS-3 first, and then the T28, that would have been that. But as it was, that was my ace tanker game. They just fed me that damage at the end. And I actually did better damage than the ISU, it turned out, even though he had 7 kills. I had 4.5k damage, he did 4.45k damage. But he had 7 kills. So we weren't really feeding him the damage so much as we were just feeding him the kills. And yes, when you're top tier in an ISU, there's less hit points to go around. But even so, for 7 kills for an ISU, that feels like quite a low amount of damage. But I'm just happy that that was... Like, I did not play the Prot again at any point during that day. In fact, I would have had a break for tanks at that point, because I just thought, right, I'm not going to top that, at least for the next couple of hours. So, yeah, that was an ace with 1468 base XP in a top-tier game in a stock vehicle. I think I had the engine at that point. I definitely didn't have the tracks, and of course I only have the second gun, so not fully stock, at least. But it was unexpected, and it was certainly a relief. So, yeah, just a quick look at the team scores otherwise. I mean, it was first and second place of the enemy team with the Rheinmetall and the ISU. And the enemy team was not particularly good. It was just that the ISU and the Rheinmetall, that combination of those tanks, that gun and that view range, were able to sit up there and punish our team for being equally stupid, some of them, just driving into the cap, even when they saw people exploding all around them. And the T34 especially seemed like he was playing decently at the start. He was being hulled down. And then he did exactly the wrong thing. He did what all the other people were doing, was driving into the cap and dying. So, yeah, the top, 4 or 5 players on our team, below the T34, you go from the T34 with 1,420 damage, and then you go to the Tiger P with 480 damage, and it's all like less than 1k damage after that. And still, despite being AFK the entire match, our Panther managed to do better score-wise than 2 players on our team. It's got to be pretty galling when somebody who's either AFK or botting still manages to get a better score than you do by doing absolutely nothing at all. So, yeah, there we go, my T28 Prot game. I am not looking forward to this grind. I mean, it's going to be better once I get the top gun, and the fact that it's got a turret means it's never going to be as frustrating, I hope, as the Jagdtiger 8.8 is, but why the hell doesn't it have 400 meters or even 390 meters view range? That boggles the mind, it really does. I posted on Twitter after the first couple of games, which filthy sadist decided that it was going to have the T25 2-gun. I'm actually now more inclined to say which filthy sadist decided that it was going to have 380 meters view range, when there is a heavy tank and a medium tank at the same tier which has got 400. It makes no sense. It really doesn't. I mean, it's absolutely indefensible, but there it is all the same. Well played, Wargaming, well played. So, the T30, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's just, this thing is not so good. No, can't recommend it. Might do a proper review at some point, or maybe I'll just grind through it and silently sell it and breathe a sigh of relief. But either way, you probably won't see that many replays of it, unless I have another game that's just as improbable as this one was, because it was quite ridiculous, all things considered. So if you enjoyed this replay, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.